Hello and welcome to My Mom's Basement, presented by 3Chi and Barstool Sports. And if you're listening on the podcast feed, the official 200th episode of My Mom's Basement. We celebrated like the actual 200th episode a while ago, but that's just because, like George Lucas, we made a confusing numbering system where we have some episodes that aren't numbered. We have around 250 episodes now. I think it's like 252, 253. But on the podcast feed, this will say episode 200. Moon Knight episode 3 recap with Clem. Clem, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. I love to hear that we have an official number here, which is not, again, we're going to start off on a tangent. I'm just going to let everyone know. It's funny how you say that, where it's like this is not technically number 200, but we're well past 200 in terms of official. One of the funniest things that comes out of as you get a little older and people are dating, it's like, so when did you guys start dating? And there's very rarely a date. It's like, well, the first time we kissed, the first time we hooked up, the first time we met each other, the first time we had sex. There's so many different ways. So this is our 200th since the numbers started going on the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I always love when like the look in each other's eyes where it's like, all right, what are we going to tell them in terms of it? Because there's a lot of different things, and you're almost like finding out more than you wanted to know. But like, it's like, I don't need to know the first time bodily fluids were exchanged between yeah. Like, oh, it was exactly 6 months ago. All right, that's enough. We don't need to know. So shout out to us, 200. Shout out to everyone for listening, subscribing, YouTube, everything. You guys are the best.
Just over 3 years the podcast has existed. So if you're a new listener of the podcast from the YouTube, which the YouTube's only existed for 1 year, you could still go back. We've got a ton of episodes in our archive, tons of episodes that me and Clem did together that are evergreen. We did a ton of commentaries. So go back, take a look through the podcast feed, take a look through the library that we have there, and download an old episode this week. That'll be how you help us celebrate episode 200. We are here to recap Moon Knight episode 3, though, which was a trip, pun intended, to Egypt, but it was literally a trip just to watch this thing. I was like, oh my God, this is going out there. This is getting weirder than most Marvel shows get. It has some cosmic elements with changing the sky now. Konshu had a great episode, your guy. He came through in a few times. What did you think of episode 3?
I dug it a lot. We, like you said, we're starting to get weird. We're getting crazy. We're getting powerful. We're seeing the quick changes between Mark to Steven, and we're kind of learning a lot more about the Moon Knight superhero himself. So there's a lot of shit to take in that I think is going to be with us moving forward for the foreseeable future, as long as Moon Knight's in the MCU. And Oscar Isaacs, I mean, I think this is, I personally think this was my favorite episode for him, because you just see these different characters, and he's just changing between them so much so quickly. I think this might have been my favorite episode. I don't know if that's a hot take.
I think it was my favorite as well.
Okay.
You're just into the meat and potatoes of it. The Egypt background gives it a new environment. Yep. It gives it a new look. And I wrote down immediately, like, the first half of this episode, before they went into the gods stuff in the Pyramid of Giza, it felt a lot like Indiana Jones to me. Like the running on the rooftops, the knife fight was definitely a nod when he licks the knife and he just gets punched in the face a few times. So I got a lot of Indiana Jones vibes. We can get right into it. This episode begins with Layla getting a new passport from a lady. I wrote down she's the armorer of Moon Knight. It looked like she had all these special tools to make a passport, and she was printing and stamping and putting on the stuff that makes it like glimmer or whatever. She gets a new passport because she has to go to the Middle East to find Mark or Steven or Jake. Possibly Jake this episode. Who knows? There's some weird things going on there. We get some Middle Eastern hip hop over the Marvel logo, which I thought was cool, kind of back to that like interesting vibe over the Marvel logo. And then Raiders of the Lost Ark vibes right away with them looking for the tomb of Ammit, all of Arthur Harrow's followers. They've got like the headdresses on. They're looking with the scarab. It points down. They find it. The police from last week are also with him. And then we cut over to Mark running on these rooftops. Reminded me of the beginning of Casino Royale, if you've seen that James Bond movie. Gets into a fight. He absolutely bitch smacks one guy. Very funny scene. He eventually does the knife thing where the guy licks the knife. He just punches him in the face. And then as he's about to kill one of the guys with a knife, he's holding the knife up to his throat. He sees Steven in the reflection. He's like, come on, Mark, we don't kill. Steven is basically the angel on his shoulder, and Khonshu's the devil on his shoulder in this movie, or in this show. He eventually doesn't kill him. Steven takes over. Mark wakes up in a cab, and it's kind of a confusing scene from there.
So this was, I mean, you said it perfectly. This was almost like the Indiana Jones episode too, right?
Yep.
And the title of it was The Friendly Type, which I feel like is kind of like this is Steven's coming out party, for lack of a better term, where I kind of shit on him last episode, and I'll shit on him for the beginning of this episode. But by the end, the friendly type, we're going in that direction. I put in the notes right off the bat when she's talking to her mom as she's making the passports. I said, this is my own little fan fiction. Layla's dad is Indiana Jones. I guess he died. R.I.P. and peace, our guy Indiana. But
he's an archaeologist. Yeah, it works.
Exactly. And he's an adventurous type, you can tell too. And a mom who's just straight up making passports. I will say this. I do not envy the kids these days. I sound like an old person saying that have to like get fake IDs or whatever for the bar.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I got my fake ID, I think like a month before 9/11. I feel like ever since then, it's you have to either know somebody where you can get an ID or you have to like, it might be a little looser now, but it's tough.
I wasn't really able to get a good one when I was, before I was 21. I was at Barstool, so I think I had mentioned on Barstool Radio or something that I didn't have one, and then a couple stoolies sent theirs to the office. One guy, shout out Peter, if you're out there listening, Peter, I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to reveal, he did incriminate himself by giving me his expired ID. But it looked decent. And honestly, it would have looked better if I had my current hair back then, because the guy kind of had long hair. But it worked. It was one that worked a couple times. The only issue was if you were going to a bar where they scanned IDs, you couldn't because it was expired. So did they even have the scanners when you got them?
They did, and that was kind of the like flaw in a lot of people's things where you'd have to get. I had one buddy who somehow it was like it's like, oh, you can get one that can scan, and that was the complete game changer. So yours wasn't undefeated. I'm guessing you took some L's along the way.
I took some L's along the way, but it never got confiscated. It was always kind of cool bouncers who were like, no, man, and then they'd give it back, which is nice. But I really rarely tried it because I was such an anxious kid that I was always afraid of, like, what if they're going to call the cops on me and I'll go to jail for that, and it'll be like the night of, and I'll go into a gang, and, my mind just spirals.
And that's the thing, like when you turn 21, like, oh, I'm gonna miss like the excitement of it all. I've heard people say that's like, no, I did not miss the excitement. I would be the first one. I'd get to the bar as soon as possible before I was 21. Even with I had a shitty fake ID that I had gotten, like I said, I bought it from Canal Street down in the city. It was this like awful looking Florida ID, and then later on I had gotten one that was like it kind of had my face, but then it was scannable in the back. I still don't know the magic that made that happen. And I had some scumbag bouncer at a bar I went to. This was again college bars. This was up at Siena. Some scumbag bouncer at Daps. I don't know his name. He's bald like me. He kind of looks like I do now. Where he was bald, he had glasses. I don't know his name. The biggest scumbag at Daps for anyone who went to Siena back in the day. And he took my ID. And and all the upperclassmen were like, no, he's cool. He's with us. And he was just being a prick. And he folded my ID in half and he like bent it. And I had to basically use that ID for the rest of the semester until I turned 21 later that like spring. And I was like, what kind of an asshole does that to someone? That's
he said he looked like you. What if it was multiverse Clem from the future, like preventing something from happening? He's like, you can't get in here.
Don't make me like this guy, Bob. I've harbored like nothing but anger and ill will in my soul for this guy. He's one of like the 5 guys on my shit list. And now you're going to kind of turn him on me, I guess.
The more you think about it, the more you're like, oh my God, he looked exactly like me. I think he was wearing white headphones at the time too.
But again, seeing her mom just like, and like you said, the shiny paper stuff. I'm like, how do they always get that on the passports? We kind of got to see that. I thought that was cool. And like you said, very Indiana Jonesy feel. We're getting, instead of swords, we have knives. The licking the knife move. What a fucking move that was. That was savage. Yeah. And don't forget this though. Knife people are inherently weird. It's kind of it's like, who's a knife guy? The Joker. The Joker's a knife guy.
He's got all of them in his jacket. When he pulls out the jacket, he's got like a line of them.
And he tells Batman how it's like it's such an intimate weapon. He's like, you want to know which one of your friends were cowards and stuff like that. Which one of the police officers? That's how you know these people are sick. You know who else is a knife guy?
Who?
Large, big knife guy.
Large strikes me as the kind of guy who will buy knives at like the Meadowlands flea market.
He buys them on the Meadowlands flea market. He buys them on the internet when he's just like drunk and in front of a computer. He has a ton of knives. He usually says, I think he always carries a knife on him. This is also a guy that grew up in Brooklyn in the 80s and had to like take the subway back in the day when there was smoke coming out of alleys and stuff like that. So he's a little hardened, but the whole like knife business, I gotta say, like, I respect. I think they're weirdos, but I do not want to fuck with a knife guy. I do not want
No.
to fuck with it. Even if I have a gun, I'm bringing a gun to the knife fight. Those knife guys, they're crazy. They're sick fucks,
Yeah,
especially the guy that licks the knife.
nowadays with the John Wick movies out, they'll be throwing the knives at you, like it'll be ninja stars, yeah, all that stuff. I don't fuck with knives. I
No
don't
way.
fuck with knives. I don't fuck with anything sharp, really. Scissors, I'm even like, yeah, I'll use the safety scissors. No, I'm kidding.
Sienna the other day brought a scissors to like cut something, and she had them held the correct way with like the point in her hand. I was like, my job here as a parent is done. That's all I had to teach you. Now I just have to like save up to like pay for college for you and a wedding. But other than that, my job is like this stage of your life is complete. I am done. Check mark next to my name.
So you don't fall face first into scissors. That's what the
Mm-hmm.
teachers would always say, which like, man, I'm sure it happened at some point. So society eventually said, hey, hold those face down. When it happened, it must have been the most horrifying thing ever.
Front page of the newspaper, because newspapers were probably around back then.
Yeah.
It's craziness.
Yeah. All right. So Steven takes over. We don't see what he does when he takes over, but he wakes up. Mark wakes up in a cab. So it seems that Steven just wanted to get out of Egypt as fast as possible, got in a cab, said, take me to the airport. Mark starts speaking in Arabic to the cab driver. He's like, where are we going? This guy's like, why are you acting like a foreigner? You speak Arabic. What the hell's going on? He gets out. He tries to talk to the guys who he just fought, who just run away from him. They're terrified. And then he gets hit over the head. He falls down. And when he hits, he wakes back up, killing a guy. Literally, with a knife stabbed into this guy. There's dead people all around him at a different site. So it looks like they took him somewhere. And then he killed like an entire gang of people again. And he tries to intimidate one kid, one of the few kids that are left, by holding his tie over a cliff. Because Konshu's like, he'll talk. Mark's like, he's just a kid. He's like, he'll talk. He fucking cuts the tie. The kid cuts the tie himself, killing himself. He says, praise Amit. He goes down. We hear the thud of his body hit.
Yep.
I thought that was a really dark moment for the MCU to show. And then Khonshu's basically like, oh well. I mean, I thought he would talk. And Steven from The Reflection calls him a pigeon, which I thought was so funny. It just makes me think of Ryan Whitney, of course,
Yes.
the Spit and Chicklets gang. But as soon as he was like, stop listening to that pigeon, Mark, I was like, that's a funny insult.
Such a badass move going with the praise Amit and then cutting the scarf yourself. Had a little bit of Black Widow and Hawkeye vibes too, where they're like trying to die, he kills himself that way. I did make him. I said, look at pussy ass Steven fucking shit up again and again and again. We're in the cab and then we're going back and forth. This show does keep you off balance because I don't know what the hell is coming next at any given moment. Konshu just like thought he would talk, kind of just shrugs it off. I love that guy's.
He's like, oh well.
I don't even know who does the voice, but the voice is absolutely perfect. It has all the cues. And is it now or later where he calls Steven a worm?
I think it might be now.
Because it's like, oh, you're a pigeon, you're a worm. And what can pigeons eat? Worms. I don't even know if pigeons eat worms. The only pigeons I know in New York City, they eat like pure garbage, basically.
They might eat rats, the pigeons in New York City. Those things are huge. They're cocky. They'll walk right in front of you. They don't even bother with flying. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's nuts. It's nuts. I think that guy might be the person I respect most out of this entire Amit cult, is the dude that just cut the scarf. That's how you know you have devoted followers, is when these guys are like, no, I'd rather just splatter at the bottom of a cliff.
That's what we want My Mom's Basement listeners to be like for us. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. And actually, you just reminded me too. Peter, was that the fake ID guy?
Yeah.
Peter, Basement Boy of the Week as of now. Giving him Basement Boy of the Week for sure.
I would love to meet him one day. If he came up to me and said his name, it was a very recognizable last name too, where I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is you. So Peter, if you're out there, I'd love to thank you for that fake ID. It did work for a couple of years.
Get him a beer, get him whatever. Yeah, I feel like
I could legally buy him a beer now. Yeah,
exactly.
That would be beautiful. So Konshu blacks out the sun at this point. He makes an eclipse, which causes all of the avatars and the gods to get together, the avatars of the gods to get together inside the Pyramid of Giza. Him causing the eclipse to make sure the location of Amit wasn't whatever it was, that was awesome. The whole sky, like with the way the stars turned back and stuff, I thought that was really cool. And later on, especially, got very cool. Hathor's avatar, who is the goddess of music and love, came right up to Mark and said that her god, Hathor, and Konshu were friendly back in the day. Sounded like maybe there was something going on between them. Yeah. And she could be a character moving forward for sure. She even helps Mark out later. So I think keep an eye on Hathor's avatar. Konshu takes control of Mark's body while they're in the pyramid, though, and just like screams out of his, human body. And every time he speaks, it seems like it's like hurting Mark Spector. Oscar Isaac, like you said, gives an amazing performance in this episode where it's like, oh shit, this is crazy. And he's basically on trial. And it felt to me like he was on the Dave Portnoy show and he was like, how do I take the heat off of me? I got to bring someone else up. And he throws Arthur Harrow under the bus for trying to resurrect the body of, or the tomb of Amit, whatever that is, who we were calling Aloe last week because we forgot how to say Amit. And they bring him in. They bring Arthur Harrow in. They explain that gods, like the Eternals, don't really interfere with humans. They don't interfere with humanity at all. But Konshu is the one who does, and they disagree with it. Harrow shows up. He says Konshu is out of his mind. His avatar is unwell. Mark confirms to the gods that he is unwell, but he tries to tell them, like, hey, Harrow's the real one that you got to keep an eye on. Like, yes, I'm unwell, but he's doing crazy shit right now. He's going to get Amit back. He's unsuccessful in convincing them of this, and Harrow gets away. And it's very frustrating to watch as a viewer because you're like, God damn, but he's the bad guy.
Yeah, tough look there all around, right?
It's hard for me to even explain all of that, too. This episode was packed. It was dense.
Okay, so, all right. I was hoping you were going to say that because I didn't know what the fuck was going on. There's a lot of, it felt like they explained as much as they could while packing in all the different nuggets they had to, but it just felt like a lot was going on. And Harrow being, I saw a lot of people saying like Harrow, oh, he didn't have his cane with him, but it's like he has a fucking tattoo that just moves, right?
Yeah.
It just moves on its own.
A bit fishy.
Yeah, it's just bad, just old school bad lawyering right there.
Yeah.
What's the name of the goddess of love and music?
Hathor.
That I guarantee Hathor and Konshu. It's like, when did you guys start dating? And I guarantee it's like,
oh yeah,
Hathor is like, the first time we met was on Valentine's Day of year, 2085 BC, and Konshu's like, the first time we fucked, in the pyramid
I
here.
picture them like a couple in Fleetwood Mac, like they were together 7 times over 7 different decades, and Konshu remembers 3 of them.
Yes, that's a great call, Bob Fox. Great call. Goddess of love and music, pretty goddamn cool ass.
Yeah, that's the coolest goddess to lock down for sure. Konshu was, he was wheeling and dealing back in the day, apparently.
I bet Konshu's a cocksmith too. That's just because he's my guy, but I'm gonna call it like I see it.
He moved the stars for her to make like a nice constellation on one night, and she just swooned over him.
Yeah, because Konshu is definitely the tough nut to crack, right? Like he doesn't show you his emotions. He's the bad boy. He's the bad boy god that all the girls are trying to change, and he just showed her the littlest bit of love, and everything spread from there. That's all I'm gonna say. And I you can just get that off of Konshu. We know this their entire relationship.
I did fall for Konshu this episode. By
the way,
did you? Last week was it for you, and this week I was like, all right, I'm so in on Konshu.
And I got in on Steven a little bit too. So look at that.
Yeah, look at that. The Hathor, spread the love around to all of us, and on the podcast, even here.
Yeah, and these gods too, like being able to get love and music, like either one of those is an A+ god or goddess to be of to get them both. Like, is there any? I was gonna say, like, what would Bob Fox want to be? I feel like music's gonna be one of them. Obviously,
yeah. If I could be the god of music, that would be the coolest one in my eyes. I think that's number one. What would be you can't be like the god of movies though. It sounds so weird, like.
The god of buttered popcorn, where it's like you're not going full movies, but it's something that you associate with it. Like the god of hugs, I kind of want to be. I'm trying.
Oh, that'd be a good, like the god of kindness, the god of peace. The god of peace is pretty sweet. That sounds just like Zen, like Om.
Yeah, but I feel like you just take a beating. It's like, well, where were you on that one? Got a piece? Up, got a piece. Fucking sweep the wheel again. Like, this is not the time for peace. But I'm with you. I kind of like the whole like kumbaya kind of vibes to it all. What I'm going to throw this to you, and I'm going to throw it to our listeners as well. If you guys are listening, there is a character that's like, he keeps speaking loud and I don't know how to control my voice. Do you know what character this is? I think it's from a movie. It's either from a movie or a TV show. And I'm like, is Austin Powers didn't have a bit where he just keeps yelling, right?
Because I know it sounds like it could be a bit in Austin Powers.
Yeah, it feels because Mark Spector when he couldn't control his voice, I'm like, that's from I think it's a comedy movie too. Might be. I I know it. I think I got it. I think it's Brick Tamlin from Anchorman. I don't know why my heart is so loud. And I don't know if there's another character out there that literally just can't control his voice for like a minute, but I do feel like it's an Austin Powersy kind of movie.
That's a good shout. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the vibes I got from Mark. And then when he says, he's unwell, I guarantee Steven has an unwell call her daddy t-shirt. That's almost ironic.
Can we resell those now? Do we own the merch?
I think
Can that be My Mom's Basement design?
Imagine that. We just like change it to like the Moon Knight font or something like that. And then Alex Cooper calls up Dave's like, what the fuck are you doing with my shirt? And he's like, these two nerdy idiots on the podcast wanted to sell them. But I will say this. So Steven has an unwell call her daddy shirt, even though he doesn't even he probably doesn't know what the podcast is. Because let's be honest, Steven, not a call her daddy listener. No. Let's just call it what it is. I guarantee Mark actually knows Alex Cooper. Mark is a bad boy. Mark's a
Layla
bad boy.
probably listens to the podcast.
Yes, exactly.
And he's like, oh, I hear that all the time while she's getting ready. She's listening to Alex Cooper and the gang. Yeah.
Gluck Gluck 3000. I know. You're not getting Gluck Gluck 3000 when you're married, though, Mark. I'll tell you that much.
That's why he put the divorce in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to get back to Gluck Gluck status.
So Hathor tells Mark where to find this tomb, this sarcophagus that will take them to the grave of Amit. This is kind of a MacGuffin for the episode. It's in the hands of a black market, like arms dealer or black market guy. And Layla catches up with him at this point. She sees him outside. We meet up with Anton Mogart, aka Midnight Man in the comics. This is the name of this guy. He was played by Gaspard Ulliel, who unfortunately passed away before this came out. This was obviously filmed a while ago. He passed away in a skiing accident. So it's very sad that I don't know if we're going to see more of him in this series, but we won't see more of him in the MCU after this, because I thought he was very good in this role. He was a good scumbag to them. He was cool looking. His whole thing with the horses and the jousting kind of reminded me of Oberyn from Game of Thrones in a weird way.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was a cool character. They mentioned that he had dealt in Madripoor, which references Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was a cool reference just for the world building aspect of it all. And then they have this cool scene in one of it's like a pyramid, a glass pyramid in his backyard, where they're looking at the tomb. They realize they need Steven's help to fix it. So Layla starts trying to distract them. He's talking to Steven in the reflections, which all of that, when Mark is talking to Steven in the reflections, I love. And that's the stuff where it really impresses me with Oscar Isaac, because he's able to make them feel like two different people, like two separate characters having a conversation that have a dynamic with each other. And Harrow shows up. He offers Anton the cane that glows up and everything. He offers him the scarab. He calls out Layla's dead dad. Very mean thing to do.
That was fucked.
He destroys the sarcophagus with purple magic. So people were saying maybe is that magic from the dark dimension? Usually in the MCU and Marvel, that is where purple is pulled from. Agatha Harkness, Dormammu, stuff like that. Moon Knight eventually takes over when Konshu tells him to. And we get an awesome action sequence here. Moon Knight jumps off the pyramid. We see his cape is a moon, literally crescent moon. Badass. He throws the moonarangs at everyone, starts destroying people, and then Steven's like, stop this, give me the body, I want to take over. As soon as Steven takes over, he just tries to be like, stop, we could settle this with words. Gets stabbed 1,000 times with javelins, and he's like, all right, take over, I'm done. That was an all-time Steven, I like this guy moment for me, because I was just like, man, that would be me. That would be exactly me. I'd be like, all right, let's just try to resolve this. And then as soon as I started getting stabbed, I would put Mark back in the role. It's cool seeing that Moon Knight can just get stabbed and it doesn't really affect him, because he's got the quote unquote healing suit. They said that's part of his thing. Another thing I saw about his suit, the wraps, the kind of mummified wraps that go around it, that was a Kevin Feige special, because they were talking about how are we going to do the suit. In the comics, you could see on my screen down here, if you're watching on YouTube, it's just really white. It's not wraps. It's not supposed to look like a mummy. And they were saying it might look weird with CGI. It might look straight up fake even. So how do we do that? And Kevin Feige said, why don't we do it like a mummy, being it's ancient Egypt? That's why he's the GOAT. That's why he's the man in charge. And
that's on my screen on the YouTube right there. We got the kind of mummified and how it kind of wraps around him as it's being formed. It's cool as fuck. So yeah, we learned we learned just how badass the Moon Knight suit and powers are. And I said, oh, we're able to absorb bullets, reshoot them, and survive getting speared 100 times? Okay. Well, like Moon Knight is on a whole new level. And that's something, like I said earlier, that moving forward, this is the level of superhero we have now. We just lost a few at the end of Endgame. We're getting some back, and we have a motherfucking ace in the hole. Who was I watching? I think Emergency Awesome. He compared him to like almost like a Deadpool and like a Wolverine, right? Where Wolverine has the healing power, so does Deadpool, but Deadpool has kind of the wisecracking shit, which I hope we get more and more Moon Knight as this goes along. Everybody's fucked right now because Moon Knight fucked shit up, and I absolutely loved it. When we first met Layla, did you see she was like drinking out of a bag?
I didn't see that.
I believe it was like a plastic bag and there was like a straw in it. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. And I don't know, like I know we live in problematic times with appropriating cultures and stuff. When she hits we were doing the la, 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 at my wedding, I was like, that seems like a fun ass way to have at a wedding. That's during the shout portion of the wedding. That's at the end. Everyone's had a few drinks. We're having fun. I loved it. The name Rufino Estrada, badass fake name. Awesome. I love that. It's a little better than some little bitch that works at a gift shop. Rufino Estrada. That's not a gift shop name.
It's not. That's a badass name.
I have more to talk about that later, but a little gift shop, but we'll put a pin in that for now. The after Madripoor stuff, you talk about Madripoor, you're sus immediately.
Yep.
And if you are a robe guy someone that like is hanging out with complete strangers at the house outside, and you put a robe on top of like your shirtless body and you're just talking with someone wearing like a silk robe, again, sus as fuck immediately. Guy had like a medieval times in his backyard, and it was just
he basically did. Yeah. You know what I wanted when Moon Knight was getting stabbed with the spears? I almost wanted like a recreation of the Ace Ventura 2 scene where he gets stabbed in the one leg and he's like, ah, and then he gets stabbed in the other and he's like, ah. That's just an all-time scene in that movie.
And when a when a robe guy tells you to get on your knees, I thought it was going a different direction. I was like, robe guys have said to like people at their house, get on your knees, and it doesn't end with the way it ended there. But a wild scene, craziness, just like I said, shit popping off and people getting stabbed a million times. And I can be cool with Mark being this badass dude who's like a little like the Hulk, where he's not really thinking, he's just doing and being a badass, where Steven is like the all-knowing version of him. So I kind of dug that. So again, we're making progress here. You're becoming a Khonshu guy, I'm becoming a Steven guy. We're molding into like the Moon Knight podcast right now. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Basically, we're all different personalities of one thing right here, the Moon Knight. So we're all in the same body, but we all take over at different times, I guess. He does hit Anton with a moonerang, whatever you want to call it, at the end. He rides off into smoke on a horse. I'm not sure if that's like them writing him off and then being like, that's it for him, or if we're going to see him later on in the series. I don't know how much he filmed, but he was a good character, so I'd like to see more of him in the series. I think this episode was also like dedicated to him at the end, which was nice.
I wanted to say that too. I didn't realize when I was watching it that was the case, but then people said, oh, the character. And then when I found out it was him, I was like, oh man, like I was really excited to see that character. So that fucking sucked, man. That was a bummer. I have a theory here. Hear me out on this one. Ready? So during the battle, and they're talking about Amit, and they say Amit sees the true nature of people, right? That's what Ethan Hawke says. Mirabelle from Encanto is a follower of Amit, right? She sees the nature. That's kind of like her actual power, right? It's like, she has the glasses on and she sees the people for who they are. Her sister, she's this beautiful girl who has flowers coming out of her ass. She's such a wonderful person. No. She's a bitch. She knows she's a bitch. Even Abuela, who we love our Abuela. It's like, no, there's some cracks in the family and she kind of sees it for what it is. I'm telling you, if you look at her tattoo, there's a fucking little... there's a little scale on there, and maybe that's why she didn't get into the door, because that our boy La Casa de whatever, they know that Mirabelle is a follower of Amit. So I'm just gonna say, I didn't see this coming when we started this podcast. Mirabelle from Encanto, sus list.
Both on Disney, both owned by them, like Pixar crossover. Oh my God, I'm in on that completely. So Steven takes over when they go to the desert, and he reads this map. They put together a map. It's a star. We see the constellations, but then we realize that you have to know what the sky looked like on that specific night, the night that Amit's tomb was buried. So Konshu shows up, and he tells Steven he needs his help to turn the sky back. and he's like, listen, I'm going to be imprisoned for this. Just tell Mark he has to free me. He'll know what to do. So he's like, okay. They go together and they literally turn the sky back, almost like Doctor Strange, the way they're moving their hands and stuff. They turn the sky all the way back. Of course, Konshu is imprisoned for this. He says earlier in the episode, it's kind of set up. If he angers them one more time, they'll put him in stone. And they all like get together around this tiny little stone thing. It carves a little Konshu into it, and he's imprisoned. And that is the end of the episode. They do find the knight that they needed in the sky, and we see him in stone. Harrow goes, he talks shit to him, and he's like, I actually enjoyed killing people on your behalf. Like, I'm going to do what needs to be done that you couldn't do. And that is Moon Knight episode 3. This is the halfway mark in this series, I believe. I think it's a 6-episode series. And halfway there, it did exactly everything it needed to do for me in terms of setting up a really good mystery, showing us a little bit of Moon Knight in action, showing us the different personalities. And I think this episode also set up the third personality, Jake Lockley, because who the hell did what he did in this episode? Just those brutal murders that Mark did not remember doing and whatnot. Obviously, the date that we go back to, where who asked that girl out on a date? It wasn't Mark because he loves Layla and he's divorcing her for her safety. It wasn't Steven because he's a vegan. So I think Jake Lockley will probably appear in the next episode.
I think Jake Lockley is going to appear. I think I'm going to fall in love with Jake Lockley pretty quick. It's going to be bad for me. I think there's going to be some problematic shit that comes out of it. But when you see a guy who just massacres some villains like that, you got my respect immediately off the bat. Those when they were talking Constellation. Oh, I actually have to make this point too. The sarcophagus or whatever, they keep saying that. I don't know if anyone else is in the same boat as me. Every time I hear sarcophagus, I think of Kanye in Monster when he goes, put the pussy in a sarcophagus. Now she claiming that I bruised her esophagus. That's in my head every fucking time they say that goddamn thing. The scarab is the Aladdin Super Nintendo game, and sarcophagus is the monster Kanye lyric. So that's just a random thing that pops in my head. Constellations, I was so excited to see him like start putting it all together before they kind of stopped it. But once they put it together, it was cool. But Constellations, I mean, that was when life was so fucking boring that you just look at the sky and go, that looks like a horse. That looks like a fucking, I don't even know. I forgot.
Yeah, I gotta say, Constellations are so overrated.
So overrated. The worst.
Like, people are like, oh, that's the Big Dipper. I just like when you look at the sky and there's a ton of stars. When you see as many stars, when you're like, whoa, that's crazy. The sky's lit up right now. I don't need to say, oh, it looks like, yeah, if you look at it like that, it's actually the Gemini constellation. It looks, no, I don't care. It doesn't look like that. It looks like a bunch of stars.
The only thing I like is the Big Dipper, because
the Big Dipper's the one.
I know that. I know the Big Dipper. I like that. But everything else, and like you said, I just like seeing a night full of stars. It's just a beautiful thing. Once I moved back to the burbs from the city, and I was like, oh, I could see the sky again. And it actually see the stars. It's beautiful. However, I'll flip it. Cloud watching is awesome. I love looking at clouds. I mean, that looks like a turtle, like hamburger. And I'm like, holy shit, it doesn't. Cloud watching should have been like, did they not have clouds in ancient Egypt? Because that seems, I know like the stars are there every single night. Cloud watching 1,000 million kajillion times more fun than constellation watching.
I agree. When me, Glennie, and Za went to the Six Flags Zoo during COVID, we did a lot of cloud watching on the drive down. What do you think that looks like? We all had different answers. It's fun stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. And you want to get into some 3Chi? You could probably see some clouds.
Oh my God, 3Chi selling Delta 9, by the way, now, which I mentioned in the ad read earlier. If you're listening to
the podcast
feed, but we have leveled up. Which some people are telling me Delta 9 is just regular pot. Which interesting.
In this actual. When everything was going on with Konshu, I didn't really know what the fuck was going on. I kind of had an idea. I like that he was making another light show, and I was like, this one's the badass light show. And I kind of like Konshu's like, I don't give a shit. Like, they're going to be pissed. Whatever. You think they were mad before? Here they come now. Do you ever see that where there's like the spotlight in the sky and you could see it from a mile away? I'm always like, there's probably some cool ass shit going on. I mean, you're in the city or around the city. So I guess
I'm always like, that's the bat signal.
Yes, I'm in the same boat. And again, the my guy Konshu, I'm trying to like figure out if he actually is that like because he does seem like he kind of just shoots off the cuff, does whatever he wants to do. But at the same point, I feel like he might have done this all on purpose and like made himself into a statue on purpose, and ironically turned himself into basically a gift shop toy. He looks like something you can buy at the gift shop where Steven works now, right?
That's funny. He does. He looks like one of the things that they would sell there. Yeah, this is
Yes.
a little replication of what the small figures looked like in ancient Egypt. Yeah.
And I like I said, I put a pin in it, but I have to let it be known now, Bob. I went to a place called Seaquest, which I thought was like an aquarium slash zoo slash petting zoo.
Is that opened by Ryan Seacrest?
And it, so I almost feel like it's owned by SeaWorld or someone like that because it just has like the logo. It looked really cool on the internet. And the wife was like, hey, the kids, it was spring break. We have to just get out and get them out of the house. Turns out it's in a mall in Trumbull, Connecticut. I think there's one down in Jersey, actually, by you as well. And it's the weirdest thing. So basically it's like it has a bunch of tanks. So you have your fish, you have some sharks, like little sharks. Then you have things like wallabies, you have a bunch of different birds, a bunch of parakeets, you have a Bengal cat, you have like all these like cool little things. And the thing that makes this different is a lot of times you can get little like those quarter machines. You can feed them, you could pay to sleep overnight with the sharks, you can snorkel with the sharks, you do this kind of stuff.
Sleep overnight with the sharks?
Yeah, it's like again, it's you're not dealing with the sharks you're seeing at a legit aquarium. This was
But you
kind of like
sleep there at the aquarium?
if you're like, yeah, if you want to have like a little birthday party or something like that, you can do that. It's interesting. It's basically a souped up pet store or petting zoo. It is by no means. I was expecting a zoo slash aquarium quality. We got much less than that. However, the reason I'm bringing up Seaquest right now is at this place you enter through the gift shop instead of leave through and you leave through the gift shop as well, I guess technically. It is the fucking worst. It was even worse than I remember going to museum, and I was cursing Steven the entire time I was in there. I was like, motherfucker. Both kids are just running wild. And we had already paid for the tickets. You got like you could get a discount if you buy stuff online before you get there. I would have just turned around and driven an hour back home without us even going into the place because it was like trying to just wrangle them all up as they're just touching everything. They even had a plush version of the blobfish. Remember when everyone the blobfish? So they had all this stuff and they were just going crazy. And then at the end of the day, AJ went back into the gift shop and was just touching everything, putting it on the ground. And I was like, motherfucking Steven Grant. So I'll tell you, me and Steven have moved a lot closer. But ever since I went in that gift shop, I'm telling you, anyone with gift shop with kids, talk to your brother. Be like, hey, how was, dealing with the little ones at the gift shop? I'm sure he's like, fuck Steven Grant.
But if you want to have a better thing to do, bring your kids to during a spring break or summer or whatnot, you could use GameTime, a ticketing app created by fans for fans. It's a new ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, other shows. The Disney on Ice, I'm sure, is on there if they're running on the summer. I don't know. And they guarantee the lowest price. This is stuff that we talked about on the show last week as well. I did before GameTime even existed. This is like the perfect app for me because I would go on other ticketing sites and wait until the last minute the ticket prices start to drop, and then you could get in great seats for lower prices. GameTime makes it way easier. They cracked the code on how to do this, so it's all possible with the GameTime app. The biggest last minute price drops can be found on seats you thought you could never buy. The purchase process just takes 2 steps and 10 seconds. Once you buy your tickets, they're delivered directly to your phone. No printer needed. That's a big thing as well. You never want to buy tickets that you don't realize you have to print, and then you have to run to a Staples near the arena, like right before the event starts. So the app allows you to easily share tickets with your friends via text as well. You could both get in even if you're not entering together. You could skip the hassle, enjoy the moment. And the best part is you'll get $20 off your first purchase by downloading the GameTime app, going to the account tab to create a login, and then redeeming the code MMB for My Mom's Basement for $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That's a real great app. I recommend everyone download it. Get the MMB code in right away. And then you never know, since it's a last minute ticket app, you might make the decision 3 hours from listening to this podcast, seeing, oh, my favorite band's in town. I didn't even realize. Let me go to GameTime. There you go.
Honest truth. We were just talking about the spring break, taking the kids out, and I said to the wife, I said, if the Mets were playing today, I would go down and we would just go there right this instant, just because it was a nice day outside. And I guess by the time this launches, it'll be Friday. That's opening day. I'm going to be at opening day in Uncle Stu's seats. Stu Finer obviously has like the
Oh
sweet seats
wow.
right up front. I'm going to be with Frank the Tank and KFC, so it's going to be explosive. I'm going to be as much a peacemaker as I am a fan of the game. But I said to the wife, I said, we got to get to the kids some more baseball games now. Last year was such a crazy, like the first half of the season, there were still all the restrictions on being together. 2020 was a complete dud. And AJ was like a baby in 2019. And I said, this new Game Time has great seats, great prices. And we saw White Sox Dave. He got him out of the blue for White Sox opening day. And they were like dead center in like the rich seats. So I'm like, and Portnoy has talked about it. It sounds like this is like a legit, like great app that the sales team hooks us up with. So I am excited about that. So check it out. I'll be going to some Mets games. Maybe let's see, Bob Fox. What can we go? Maybe we'll go to a Giants Washington game using
Oh,
Game
that would
Time.
be a lot of fun. I was gonna say Mets Yankees would be fun even.
Mets, yeah, that's probably the easier, better way to do it. I have to remember, like, you guys have changed names so many times. I just said Washington. I just threw it out there. You guys are legitimately the Commanders now. We have a legit. What's the Bob Fox rating on a Commanders?
I like the name Commanders. I don't love it. I would have rather like Red Tails or something. I thought that was a cooler name. But when they announced it and everyone started shitting on it, I was so like, I think Guardians, Cleveland Guard. I'm not a fan of the Guardians. I think that's a good name too. I think people shit on that. They shit on the logo. I'm like, I don't know. I think they just shit on it because it's new. It all looks normal to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like when something new on Twitter comes out and everyone hates it and then they forget it wasn't a thing. Like I'll forget the Guardians were not the Cleveland's name in like a year or two. It's just how it goes. It's just how it goes.
Now there are like home runs when you have names. The Las Vegas Golden Knights, home run. That was pretty awesome. The Seattle Kraken, home run. Like those are awesome names. Did I think the Commanders was that? No, but I think it's like a fine team name. I don't have any issue with it at all. My big thing was please keep the colors, the maroon and gold. That was like my number one thing. They kept that. I don't think there was ever a doubt that they would keep it. So I'm happy with it.
I'll be honest. I kind of liked football team. I always liked Washington football team. As
I would have liked
it
FC.
grew on me.
Washington FC, I think, would have been cooler.
That could have been cool too. Yeah. So
the Washington Football Club. But I'll need the lowest ticket prices out there for concerts this summer because, Clem, as I told you right before we started, I just paid a $1,900 fee to get my car back after being towed for a month. And I saw people saying, how did you not know your car was towed for a month? I didn't know my car was towed for like the first 2 weeks of the month because I was in London for one of the weeks. And the first week, I just didn't use my car. Living in Jersey City, you don't use your car every day. You could use public transit. You could use Uber, even if, it's not worth making the walk to get your car from a lot sometimes. And yeah, it was in my brother's name. He lives in Michigan now. We couldn't find the title. We couldn't find the registration. He had to send it to me like power of attorney. Then we did find the title. Then we did find the registration. It was a whole thing because my mom's in the middle of a move. She had it. It's boring stuff. But let me just say this. If your registration expires, and especially if the last registration was in someone else's name, do not let that lapse. It was an absolute hassle to get it back. And when I went to the tow place, they tell me $1,900. I'm like, yep, about what I expected. It sucks, but it's horrible. But it's what I expected. And they go cash only, by the way.
Oh,
well, I don't have $2,000 in my wallet right now. Who do you think I am? Like, what the fuck? And I said, where's the nearest ATM? And they were like, you could walk like 15 minutes up the road to a Wawa. So, Clem, I had to walk 15 minutes up the road in the rain to a gas station, literally a Wawa gas station, and then take $2,000 out of an ATM, $250 at a time, because that's how the ATM like worked. You could only take out 250 at a time. And when I got 1,000 in, realized that was like my takeout limit for the day. So I had to call my bank in the middle of it, get them to double my limit, then take out another 4 rounds of $250, walk back 15 minutes in the rain, and then give it, count it all out in front of the guy, and he gave me the keys to my car back. It was a nightmare. And since the last time we did a podcast, I got an emergency dental surgery. I got no tooth back there.
yep,
no
there
tooth,
he is.
which I haven't showed to anybody because I'm afraid of people like seeing me without a tooth and then not being able to unsee it. That's like a thing people say. But yeah, that was horrendous, Clem. It was the worst dentist appointment of my life. They had to pull an infection out of my tooth, get in there, get the infection out. They stitched me up in 2 places. I got stitches in my mouth as I'm talking right now. So the last game was my flu game. This is my stitches game. And it was
Broken
the
tooth.
first time ever in a dentist chair that I was yelling, Clem. I was literally yelling. They numbed me up, and then they had to numb me up again because I was just like, ah, as they were pulling my tooth. The dentist stopped at one point and told me, hey, I just got to stop. We'll put some medicine in your gums for 5 minutes. I can't see the tooth past the blood.
Oh God, there is nothing where you feel more vulnerable than being in the dentist chair. And if you like, they're always like, if you feel pain, just like raise your left hand and we'll stop. And the entire time I'm just like, oh fuck, like
Yeah.
it's like when the pilot says, there could be a little bumpy patch coming up here, and I'm just like, oh God, and I don't want to cry and whatever. And you just had to experience that with the tooth. Oh my God,
I didn't feel like I was crying, but I had tears coming like streaming down my face.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a real bitch, and I tweeted that I felt like a bitch. But I had a bunch of listeners be like, "Don't feel like a bitch, man. Dental pain is the worst." And I was like, "All right, at least they feel my pain."
Ye who criticizes someone else for like complaining about the dentist, like I would say, glass houses, like go fuck yourself. That's what I'll say to that. Like that is the worst. That's coming from someone who's had 4 teeth pulled, 4 wisdom teeth pulled, braces for 2.5 years. So I've been through the rigors of the dentist for a long, long time.
It's the worst.
I stare whenever I'm going through it. I just basically stare like a hole through the light. I just look right into it, be like, this shit will almost be over, and I won't have to deal with it again. Hopefully for 6 months. Even like the cleanings aren't a big deal.
I know. I got a deep cleaning. I didn't like that either. The deep cleaning made my gums bleed a lot too.
It's 2022. How do we not just have a machine you just put in your mouth and it can somehow deep clean without you having the little, even if it's not the little scratchy like hook tool, but it's like there's like
that's the worst. The scratchy hook tool that they use to clean. Oh my!
Yeah.
You hear your teeth squeaking.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate it.
They have it's even like the new one they have where it's like a gun kind of, and it shoots water but it feels like the scratchy tool too. Oh God. So Bob, I wish I could have taken that pain away from you. I wish I could snap you so you don't even, not Thanos snap, but snap so it can make you not remember. And like, I want to go back to the ATM as well though. Like, were people at the Wawas being like, what the fuck is that kid taking?
Yeah.
So like then I'm worried I'm gonna get jumped.
I was totally worried I was gonna get jumped. I had a 15-minute walk back to the tow lot. Yeah.
And you're in what, Jersey City?
I was, but the car was in fucking Kearney, New Jersey.
Kearney, New Jersey?
Yeah.
That sounds like not a great place. I don't know about Kearney. Is Kearney, New Jersey not a great place?
I don't really know about it other than getting the area where I got the car from did not seem like a great place.
Your car, I'll just say this, and this is by no means a hit towards anyone who works a very honest living, I imagine. Tow truck places are like the sketchiest places on the goddamn earth. Every single one.
And the guy was such an asshole to me too. Like, I gotta say, he was a miserable, just one of those people that clearly hates their job. And like, he said, hey, it's gonna be cash only. And I went to be like, there was a lady behind me who was also confused about that. And she only owed like a couple $100, but still, like, you got to tell people that before they come, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's cash only. And she started to be like, what about? And I was like, is there an ATM? And he's like, hold on. Let me figure it out. Just calm down. And then like started like typing in things on a calculator for like the next 10 minutes. And I was just standing there silently in his little trailer. It was, man, Clem, this week has been rough, but hey, it's, Friday as this episode goes out. We got through the week with all the listeners' help. We got through the week. We're
through episode number 200 now. So it's all gravy.
That feels nice. I'm still playing Lego Star Wars. Just beat the prequels. I'm taking it slow, Some people beat the whole game already, but I'm kind of enjoying myself through every level.
They're not home right now, so I can say this to you on the podcast without having it's spring break right now, by the way, at the Casa de Clem. My kids are home more than I am at this point. I work from fucking home. I am thinking, and based on our last conversation, I am thinking about having the Easter Bunny bring them Star Wars for Easter. And by that, I mean it will download on our Switch. I will not be buying physical. I have like 4 games physically, and it's so fucking annoying when you have to switch between one of those games. Mario Kart is one of those games, which is, the greatest game of all time, in my opinion. So every time we have to take out Mario Kart, I'm like, God damn it, don't lose Mario Kart, or else I got to pay $60 for it again. But I am thinking it's between Star Wars and Super Smash, because like AJ is big time into Mario Brothers these days, and we can do some Super Smash. But kind of interested in Star Wars based on everything you said about it. Plus, obviously, I see all the videos and the pictures online. It looks like a pretty goddamn fun game. And Bob Fox is taking his time, enjoying himself here. So
it's amazing. Did you see the video I posted? Grievous fucking hits the dab on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's awesome.
Come on,
it's unbelievable. So yeah, so you the only thing
somebody
is
please make a gif of me doing the dab on YouTube just now.
And I know for sure I'm going to get this game, and then all my angry feelings about the prequels and the sequels are going to bubble up when the kids are in those games. That's the only reason why I haven't already ordered the game and put it.
It
on
might
the system
not though. I'm telling you, they make such digs at the prequels and little inside jokes at the prequels that like you're almost like, yeah, I'm with you, Lego game.
I got it. We got to get Prequel Stan / Prequel Friends review on it. I haven't heard anything.
Haven't heard from Prequel Stan.
Does he not have, or she, excuse me, Fran, not have the game? Didn't buy the.
It's such a good game, Clem, that I'm gonna buy it for Nintendo Switch, and I already have it on Xbox.
Wow,
it's a game where I'm like, yeah, I'd like to take this on the road with me and play it on airplanes and all of that. It is amazing. It's the most fun that I've had playing a video game since the Spider-Man PS4 game came out, for sure.
Jeez, that's Bob Fox approved.
And that was that was like 2018 or something. That was years ago that game came out. And I bought a PS4 just for that game. Is the only reason I bought a PS4. And still, it was like the only game that I've ever played on PS4. I have a PS4 just collecting dust now.
I got my PS4 here. Yeah, it's starting to wind down. PS5s don't exist. I still don't believe that they're actually
exist. It's crazy. My brother tried to get one forever before Lego Star Wars came out, and then wound up just settling with an Xbox Series One, which I was happy about because as an Xbox guy, I was like, yeah, come on, what are we doing here?
What are you doing, Mike? We're not switching sides like Anakin.
Yeah.
I also for any listeners there that if anyone works at a tow truck place, tow stop, whatever you want to call it. Why are they always so angry? Is it because they're busy and they deal with people who are like, fuck these people? I got my.
They probably deal with shitty people all the time,
right? And then I'm thinking, like, could it be
people are always angry about getting their cars, so they're like approaching them angry.
Exactly.
I approached them so nice, and I just got a fucking like pit bull in my face.
And I've dealt with one that was actually pretty nice, like one group of people. But I always feels like a shisty thing going on, right? And it's like, you just took my car from me. What the fuck? So I understand if that's the case. I also think dealing with insurance, you probably deal with insurance companies all the time, and I've dealt with insurance companies like 3 times in my life, and every single time I felt like I was you in the dentist chair, just getting my mouth ripped down, being like, these motherfuckers are trying to kill me. So for anyone who works at a tow truck place, let us know. If you made it this far, what do you think? Hashtag the 200?
Hashtag the 200. Yeah,
but
that.
You have to spell it out, the 200, so we know.
The 200. Yeah.
200.
That's good. I like that. And I was just thinking there should be an MCU villain at some point that is a dentist, because they are just, no offense to dentists listening as well, but they're terrifying when they have just your entire mouth in their grips. I picture like Ebony Maw when he's putting the little glass spikes through Doctor Strange, but just like drilling his teeth with the glass spikes, using it like a scrapey tool.
Bob's an anti-dentite. It just came out. Wow.
I am. Sorry, Britt Baker, DMD, AEW former women's champion, the dentist herself. But yeah, anti-dentist after that last encounter.
I thought you were going to go Dr. Isaac Yankem. That's another.
Well, yeah, Dr. Isaac Yankem, may possibly like her long-lost grandfather.
I'm surprised that never got written in the WWE. Yeah. So we'll see what happens next week in Moon Knight. I will say, so I think we're both we're in agreement here. This was our favorite episode.
Yeah, my favorite for sure.
We say Oscar Isaac's best episode so far too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but I do think we'll get one better. I'm also at the point now though where I'm used to usually right around now is where we peak with the Marvel shows. 3 or 4, and then usually it goes down. Even though Loki, you could say episode 6 was actually, I don't know if you can even say, would you say the finale was the best? It was really not a lot going on, but Jonathan Majors just crushed it.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. But my favorite was probably the one with all the different Lokis.
Yeah.
The Richard E. Grant stopping the Eliath and all that. That was awesome.
That was probably the best. I'm with you. And WandaVision topped out middle, right? I think that's where that comes from. It's 4 or 5. And this one, okay, so yeah. And as I was saying that, I've been thinking of old Loki being like basically do not pass. And obviously I got a Loki Gator. So yeah, as great as Jonathan Majors was, I don't think he touches that. So hopefully we're getting kind of hopefully this keeps getting better. But if not, I think we're going to hit our climax next episode and we'll go from there. So
absolutely. So tune in next week. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Should they comment something? What should they comment?
What should they comment?
Favorite personality so far?
Yes.
Are you a Mark guy or a Steven guy?
Steven guy, Mark guy. If you want to be a Layla guy,
if you want to be a Jake guy, I guess you could throw that out there. It's like putting in a futures bet, you know?
Or you say fuck them all, Konshu for life.
Yeah, all right. So leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe, like the video. If you're an MMA fan, go check out the newest episode of Spin and Backfist, and we will see you next week.